Hi guys. So as more and more students have gotten to this lesson, we've realized that the way I wrote the notes in your packet didn't really do a great job of helping you realize how you should best organize this work. And as nice as it sounds to do a table and keep everything organized that way, you guys weren't doing a great job of translating the information from the table to your answer. So I'm going to give you another option for how to organize this work. Now, this should not be the first video you watch. So if you haven't already watched Mr. Thomas Wick's lesson and taken notes on that, then you need to stop this right now and go back and do this, because I am starting with a very complicated problem intentionally, and it's not meant to be your introduction. I'm not going to cover a lot of those sort of underlying concepts that you need in order to know why I'm doing the things I'm doing. I'm just going to jump straight into a more complicated one and focus mostly on how best should you organize this information. Okay, so the problem I've chosen is from your practice is number 19. It's 27x squared plus 9x minus 60. So there's a couple things I noticed right away. One, I have a number other than 1 in front of my x here, so that means I'm going to have to think about more than just what multiplies to give me this and adds to give me this. Also, these are really big numbers, and that's annoying, and it doesn't sound fun to me. But 27 is divisible by 3, so I'm going to check these other numbers here to see if they're also divisible by 3. And sure enough, both of those are, so I'm going to factor out a 3. Which means I'm going to pull a 3 out here and divide each of these terms by 3. So 27x squared divided by 3 gives me 9x squared. 9x divided by 3 gives me 3x, and negative 60 divided by 3 gives me negative 20. So this is my new problem. Now when I write my answer, I'm still going to have two binomials that multiply to give me this trinomial, but I'm going to have a 3 out in front because I've just gone ahead and taken that out. Now I'm working with a 9 and a 20 here, which, although it's still not going to be super fun, it's at least less annoying than a 27 and a 60. It's more doable and less frightening to consider. Okay, so here's how I want you to organize this. Rather than going over here and doing a table, I want you to think first about what are my options for 9. Probably the first thing that comes to your mind when you're thinking about what you can multiply to get 9 is 1 times 9, and that's fine. So remember that when you're writing these binomials, you're going to have some number right here in front of your x that multiplies to give you 9. Now with this one, we also have this 3 here, so make sure you keep it out front. But I'm going to multiply 1 times 9 is one option, because 1x times 9x would give me 9x squared. Okay? However, with this particular problem, I do have a second option. I've still got that x there, I've still got that 3 there, but also, in addition to 1 times 9, I could also have 3 times 3. Okay, so I could have a 3 and a 3 here. The other thing you have to think about, though, that's going to help us decide which of these to go with, is I've got to think about my factors of negative 20. Now, I'm just going to ignore the fact that that's a negative for a little while. I'm going to instead just think about 20. So 1 times 20 is an option, 2 times 10 is an option, and 4 times 5 is an option. So these are the different numbers that I can multiply to give me 20. I know that we're going to have to deal with the negatives, but we're just going to hold off and I'll show you how I'm going to approach that in just a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try out these different options on both of my possible binomial sets. So to get 20, I'm going to put something here and something here that's going to get multiplied, because remember, this number times this number is going to multiply to give me that constant, just like the coefficients on my x's multiplied to give me that x squared term. Okay, so I'm going to start by just plugging in my 1 and my 20 into both of these. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 and 20 and 1 and 20. Well, 1x times 9x I know every time is going to give me my 9x squared, right? Then though, I'm going to get 1x times 20 gets me 20x. 1 times 9 gets me 9x. And then 1 times 20 is going to give me 20. I know that 20 is always going to stay put. That's going to stay locked in. Now, because ultimately this 20 is going to end up being negative, that means one of these values needs to be positive and one needs to be negative, because a negative times positive gives me negative. So I've got to think, when adding these together, can I make this add together to be 3 if I make one of them negative? Well, if this is negative, negative 20 plus 9 is negative 11, not 3. If I make the 9 negative, 20 and negative 9 is positive 11, not 3. So there's no way to make that be 3, which means that is not my answer. If I go over here and try, again, my 3x times 3x definitely gets me my 9x squared. 3x times 20 gives me 60x, and 1 times 3x gives me 3x, and then 1 times 20, again, I know that that's going to be 20. Okay, that's why we chose those numbers. Now, when I go try my negatives, if 60 is negative, I'm getting negative 57, so that didn't work. If 3 is negative, I'm getting positive 57, not positive 3. So that didn't work, which means 1 and 20 is off the table. Now, we do have to consider the idea that maybe the order was wrong. So we do have to try 20 and 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause and erase, and then we'll try it in a different order. Okay, so I'm going to try 20 and 1. I don't have to worry about flipping the order over here, because since my coefficients are the same, the order is not going to make a difference. Over here though, I've got my 1x times 9x, I've got 1x times 1. That first number times the last number is 1x. That middle number times the other middle number is 180x. There's definitely no way that those are going to come together to give me positive 3. Okay, so I can go ahead and mark 20 and 1 off of my list of possibilities. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing with 2 and 10. I'm going to try 2 and 10 for both options. 1x times 9x, got my 9x squared. 1x times 10 is 10x. 2 times 9 is 18x. I could get negative 8, or I could get positive 8. No way to get 3. So let's try it over here. 3x times 10 is 30x. 2 times 3 is 6x. If this one's negative, I've got negative 24. If this one's negative, I've got positive 24. So that didn't work. All right, let me pause and erase. Okay, so let's try 4 and 5, or not 4 and 5, sorry, 2 and 10 in a different order. 2 and 10 didn't work, but let's try 10 and 2. We don't have to try it over here because of the 3's, but I do have to try it here. So I'm going to have 1x times 2 is 2x. 10 times 9 is 90x. There's no way to make those 3. No matter which one of these is negative, it's not going to get me 3x. Okay, so we can mark that off our list, and now 4 and 5 have got to work in some form. So let's plug a 4 and a 5, and a 4 and a 5, and try these out. 1x times 5 is 5x. 4 times 9x is 36x. There's no way for those to make a positive 3. Over here, 3x times 5 is 15x. 4 times 3x is 12x. Now, if I make this negative, negative 15 and positive 12 is negative 3. It's not quite what I want because I want positive 3, but that gives me hope. If I change it so that this one's positive and this one's negative, 15 and negative 12 is equal to 3. So that makes me think that this is my answer. Now though, I finally have to think about those negatives. So I am going to say, if I want this 15 to be positive, I've got to think about where that 15 came from. It came from multiplying 3x times 5, which means this needs to be positive. I want the 12 to be negative. That came from saying 4 times 3x. So I need this to be negative because negative 4 times 3 gives me negative 12. And now Negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. Okay, so just to do one last check to make sure this really works, 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times 5 is 15x. Negative 4 times 3x is negative 12x. And negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. When I combine those like terms, 15x and negative 12x is 3x, and I've got that negative 20. I've also still got this 3 out front, and if I distribute that back in, 3 times 9x squared is 27x squared, 3 times 3x is 9x, and 3 times negative 20 is negative 60. So that means that my final answer is 3 times 3x minus 4, 3 times 3x minus 4 times 3x plus 5. Okay. I know that took a long time. Hopefully it didn't scare you off. I might do one more example in a separate video for you, maybe one that's a little bit simpler, just so that you can see kind of the process in motion. But hopefully that helps you keep things a bit more organized. Good luck. Let us know if you're still confused.